So some of the big things that happened in 2013 for me was just the interesting uptake of some of the Twitter profiles. And what is interesting about that demographic is between the ages of 55 and 64 is the fastest growing Twitter demographic. So for marketers that are looking at your high LSMs, your targeting, there's a big opportunity there to see what this demographic is saying online, how they're thinking, and also just getting feedback from that demographic. So that for me was one of my top trends. Then the next thing that I thought was really interesting was looking at the shift in mobile. Was an interesting one to see that the number of smartphones that are being bought worldwide, but it had a knock-on effect to Facebook users. So 189 million of Facebook's users are mobile-only users. So that's an interesting change in the demographic. That means that there's more smartphones going into the lower LSMs. So if you're, for example, doing a lot more marketing on a small form factor and looking at Facebook's ad revenue, which is 30% of the ad revenue actually comes from the mobile phone market. Interestingly, in Africa, there's a propensity to use more Facebook than other places. So, for example, in Zimbabwe, you'd have 1.2 million users from Facebook alone and a lower Twitter profile. So Africa is still quite Facebook-driven. So then, this is more of a number which comes out of the US, but I thought that an interesting one for marketers, if you look at obviously self-promotion and the concept therein, around videos on YouTube. So 18 to 34 watch more YouTube than a normal cable network. And then you've got, the other side of that says that people are, signing on to Netflix. Amazon has just launched a new channel which allows you to get content, TV shows and so on. So that's a big change. So for marketers that are working with traditional medium and traditional media channels, you're looking at an actual decline net year on year of the standard cable network and what we traditionally refer to as a base station and a multicast network. My fourth top one was every second 2 new members joined LinkedIn. Now LinkedIn is known as one of the standard mechanisms for people to connect using the business context. So I thought that was interesting. So it's worth paying attention to, but there's not a lot of, unless LinkedIn is hooked into your Twitter profile, Facebook profile, there's not a lot of activity on LinkedIn. The number 5 one, which I was unfortunately quoted on first, which I think was unfortunate, was that social media has overtaken porn as the number 1 activity on the web. It's now effectively the most common thing that we do online, as opposed to the other thing, which was really, really good. The number 6 for me was LinkedIn, and was stated as LinkedIn has a lower percentage of active users than Pinterest or Google+, Twitter and Facebook. So that's a standard thing, but it's gathering. LinkedIn is the fastest gatherer of new tenants or new. So it gathers people quicker than anybody else, but doesn't have the amount of use that is out there. So another big thing that came out of a research that was done is that 93% of marketers actually use social media for business. And the example would be, we finished a project recently where we used the concept of Twitter to help one of our customers understand the net influence on their call center. And we were able to pick up 25 minutes before call center uptake that there was an uptake in the social media activity on certain issues. Statistic number 8 was that 25% of smartphone owners aged 18 to 44 say they can't recall the last time their smartphone wasn't next to them. And the classic case is if you've ever had a child on BBM or WhatsApp now, is you can't wake them up in the morning, but as soon as they go bzz, bzz, they're awake. So it's an interesting challenge to see that smartphone penetration and the use of that smartphone, it means that people are within earshot of general communication mechanisms. So it shows you that marketing companies are probably behind the curve on adopting new mechanisms for blogging and keeping up to date with things that are going out in the market. So interesting trend. And then the last thing around privacy. So, and this was also brought to bear with that same company we're working with. They said, that a customer would never share their number via a Twitter profile, and that was their subscriber number, and they did quite often. We picked up thousands of people will actually send a company not personal details, but their account numbers and things like that in on Facebook, on Twitter, and so on. Another example is so 25% of Facebook users don't even bother with privacy settings. They actually just don't care about privacy settings whatsoever. 2014 holds a lot more information, a lot more sharing, And I term it an ideological platform because social media is an ideological platform. It's a space where people can share information in and of themselves, and not necessarily with too much governance and too much controls.